Hey, now that we're in the vaguely wintry holiday season, the most appropriate thing to do on the channel is embrace Jack Frost nipping at our noses. And thankfully Scooby-Doo has a lot of wintry adventures to look at, so we'll be looking at several of those this month. We've already looked at the 10,000 Volt Ghost, and the ghost of Jeremiah Pratt, so next we're headed into another episode many people likely grew up with on VHS or DVD, television airings, or all of the above, and cemented itself as one of the memorable classics. Like the Electric Ghost before, we're headed into the third season of the Scooby-Doo show, on home video referred to as the third season of Where Are You? For season 3, episode 3, A Scary Night with a Snow Beast Fright. Originally aired September 23rd, 1978. As for our haunting villain today, we're also in for something very different from your average human specter, as today's Fright is none other than the prehistoric dinosaur, the Snow Beast. It's thought that its design might be inspired by the visual description of the so-called monster of Partridge Creek, from the cryptid story of the same name published in the 1900s. If not, there's a cool similar cryptid story for you to go look into later anyway. My first introduction to this one was definitely from the 2002 VHS and DVD release Winter Wonder Dog. I watched this release so many times, so this compilation of episodes is truly nostalgic, also featuring the Nutcracker Scoob episode which I covered previously, and another episode you might find a video on next. After that, outside of complete season and series sets, you can also find this episode on the 2012 13 Spooky Tales Holiday Chills and Thrills DVD set, as seen right here, like all of our wintry episodes. Let's check out why this episode has stuck around in everyone's minds. We open up in a likely place to be for a wintry episode, the North Pole. Friend of the gang, Professor Kruger, is trying to make his way through the snowstorm when he hears a terrible roar that opens his eyes as he looks up and gets a terrible fright. The Snow Beast's chicken-looking hands grab him up, and we get our first full look at this giant monster, roaring as it takes him hostage. Meanwhile, the gang look at a newspaper article about the professor, as they've been flown out personally to come see him, meaning it must be urgent. While on the article, the woke police are here to point out that this episode does use this term, which starts with an E, which has been, like the word that starts with a G, recognized as less desirable to be using. Inui is the correct term that is preferred, as the E word was used as a slur to dehumanize them through violence. There are of course people who don't care, or feel it to be a case-by-case basis even, as with most situations, but it's generally seen as derogatory and offensive, so we will only be using Inui here. Back to the episode, the gang are in some fun winter outfits again, and I really love Shaggy's hat in this one. They've been left in the dark about why they're here, as the professor said it was too important to say over his cable. Also love this moment of Scoop snoring and swallowing the pom-pom on the hat. They come to attention as Shaggy sees something that spooks him, 3 totem poles coming into view. Scoop imitates them as Velma explains they were just carved by the local Inui residents. Nothing scary. Their pilot has never seen any so big and takes them closer, and it is a little intimidating as we're right in the face. They finally land in the Inui village, the pilot telling them they'll need skis to get through the snow, so that's now like 4 wintry episodes we've done lately where the gang are skiing at some point, going back to Laurel and Hardy, and yet Scooby still has not quite mastered the art of it. He tried, bless him. Scoob makes do with a better method for him, but as they arrive, everything seems to be destroyed. Dig Velma and Daphne not facing the camera, and yet their voices still got accidentally swapped here.
Igloo smashed to bits! Yeah, as if some giant monster stepped on him.
The boys are ready to go with that, but Fred reminds them they still need to find the professor. Velma has them split up to search the destruction, and as Shaggy looks inside this igloo, they get a scare from a polar bear. As they call for help, I love this look of utter disgust on Fred's face here. By the time they come in to check on them, the boys are in a fight with a fish that was hung up to dry. It seems like someone was also recently here cooking dinner. The pot's still warm, so this person must have left quick. As the others go to look, Scoob can't help himself and empties the pot, but it's not exactly to his taste, turning out to be laundry. Lost count of how many times they've done that exact gag at this point. He pops out and realizes he's been left behind, so he starts to run and look for everyone when he stumbles, finding himself in the middle of a giant footprint. Catching up with the gang, he shows exactly what he saw with this miraculous effect of his, so he agrees to take them over. Sure enough, there are several giant footprints that must belong to some 50-foot monster. They hear a pack of dogs in the distance. One of the Inui headed over on a dog sled, complete with a pretty lady dog for Scooby to crush on. She has both throbbing over here and melting. The man introduces himself as Nanook, chief of the village. His name is considered to likely be a reference to the 1922 silent film Nanook of the North, which would be preserved in the Library of Congress's National Film Registry in 1989, 11 years after this episode. Velma explains they're friends of the professor and asks where he is, the chief explaining that the Snow Beast carried him off, and also smashed their igloos and drove off his people. Fred asks what this beast is and why it attacked, so the chief explains their ancient texts say the great beast comes to life when man invades the sacred lands of the north. The beast became angered when they built their village on sacred land. Now, they must vacate or be destroyed. And he warns they should leave as well. But Velma won't let Shaggy out of this so easily. The chief at least directs them to where the professor had been working. Nobody answering when Scooby first knocks, but someone very much on the receiving end on his second try. The man says the professor is gone and all that remains is their work. He adds that he's the assistant, Jean-Pierre Baptiste, and leaves them to get out of here, also recommending they leave like the chief. They look all over the office to see if they can figure out why the professor asked them to come, Velma eventually finding a drawing of the totem poles they saw. She bets it's what the professor saw when he... but she doesn't finish her sentence as they hear a banging. Scooby answers the door, and waiting is none other than the giant eye of the snow beast. The thing picks up the entire building and shakes them around, suddenly looking a lot bigger as you might notice his size varies shot by shot. They all run out, and now he's even bigger. His scale truly knows no bounds. Something that really adds fear factor to this guy is the terrifying sounds it makes. They are really perfectly unsettling. And fun fact, you can supposedly hear some of the sounds it makes also used in the infamous dog transformation torch scene of John Carpenter's 1982 film, The Thing. One of the most gnarly and hard to watch scenes in this iconic film, which came out 4 years later in a similar Arctic setting. I dare not show visuals of this scene, but here's some of the audio for an idea of that horror. Scooby runs around, and we get some whack-a-mole antics with Scooby in these igloos, and I do believe this is the third recent video where we have seen this scenario. Chief Manook sees the beast and tries to run, but it snatches him up, and satisfied with another victim, runs off with him. The gang realize they'll need to take his dog sled to go after him and send Scooby to guide them, walking alongside to make sure they stay in line as they arrive back at the massive totem poles. Getting out to look around, they find what seems like black snow, but then they hear a thump that Shaggy attributes to the totem pole's heart beating. Dr. Scoob confirms. And then...
How could a totem pole possibly have...
Again, whatever library of stock noises they tapped into here, they really hit perfection for making this thing scarier than it would have been without these roars. Everyone scatters as it tries to grab them, the growls not letting up and adding so much tension to this moment as they all come up from the snow. Unfortunately, Scooby finds himself coming up right at the foot of the snow beast, and the big bad swats right at him. We'll be right back.
Creatures in the snow.
Oh no!
Monsters in a sleigh. For the fields we go. Screaming all the way. Velma is so smart.
I found something.
I'm always in a fog. You are simply Scooby-Doo, my winter wonder dog.
Scooby-Doo, Shaggy, Scrappy, and the whole mystery gang bundle up to enjoy 4 deep freeze mysteries.
Scooby's frozen salad!
In Scooby-Doo Winter Wonder Dog, the perfect holiday gift for your family from you-know-who.
Like it's Scooby-Doo Winter Wonder Dog, coming on DVD and video just in time for the holidays. Scooby-Dooby-Doo!
The snow beast swats down at Scooby, knocking him away as he becomes a giant snowball. Another common thing we keep running into lately. And after crashing, he has no choice but to hop inside the totem pole and wait at the top while the beast searches. He even does his impression of the faces again to blend in, which works out, the beast giving up and the gang able to run over. He gets a good look at them from up there though, and decides that is way too high to jump from, which I would also not be doing. At the same time, he's so cold up there that he's turning into a block of ice, so he ends up not having a say in it in the end, falling down with the wind. The beautiful lady dog knows what to do, however, walking over to give him those big puppy dog eyes and rubbing her nose against the ice until he melts. Just like that, all better. They reset the dogs and head back out to follow the tracks. But hours pass with nothing found. They finally find an ice cave the tracks seem to lead to, realizing this must be its lair. As they walk deep inside, they miss the beast lurking in the shadows, watching and waiting for the right time, which isn't now, because Scoob slips and bumps everyone off the end of the path, all 5 of them bouncing and sliding until they're trapped. Fred gets practical and uses a lasso to hook onto some ice above, so they decide to send Scooby since he's the lightest and can make sure to tighten it better up top.
Too fast.
They force him anyway, but up top, unfortunately, is the Snow Beast, who finally found the right time. Scooby getting rope burn on the way back. They're forced to try and find another way, getting a sudden shock when they think they've walked right up to its eyes. But Fred assures everyone it's just a pair of lighted tunnels, which for Velma poses the question of why electric lights would be in the cave of a Snow Beast. Obviously, they split up with this in front of them, the trio finding that someone must have carved the tunnels out of solid ice. At the end, they find a submarine hidden here beneath the ice, and more of that black snow, which seems to answer things for Fred and Velma. The boys, meanwhile, aren't so lucky. The Snow Beast right behind them, so Scoob jumps inside Shaggy's backpack, which then gets left behind with the Beast, and Scooby has no luck trying to hop away, just splatting back into the Beast. He gets away and joins the chase, even landing on another floor, and trying to barricade it in still doesn't keep it back. Reliable dentist Shaggy Rogers appears with his lovely assistant to help though, because Scooby always loves himself some drag. Shouldn't open that mouth though, there had to be a better disguise. The trio meanwhile walk down some stairs as they look for the professor, suddenly hearing a yell for help coming from a door. Inside, they finally find the chief and professor, who can't remember anything beyond the Beast taking them. The boys run in desperately from their chase, finally having lost the creature, so everyone gets out and makes it back to the surface.
We made it!
Now all we have to do is capture the Snow Beast.
They forgot to stop with the intense reverb effect for the rest of this scene, so everyone's out in the open now but still sound like they're in a tight echoey room, which kinda makes this scene extra surreal. From here, they just need someone to lure the Snow Beast over to this slippery patch of ice. And at the request of volunteers, Shaggy makes sure to step back and remove himself, leaving Scoob. I don't think he's very happy about it. The Beast seems to be sleeping, didn't know it did that, so Scoob makes some faces and noises to wake it up. Love his face as his plan worked a little too well here. The chase back to the others begins, Scooby slipping and sliding on the ice, but the Snow Beast is just as vulnerable, slamming into one of the totem poles and breaking it in half. As they suspected, the totem poles were really just a facade for hidden oil derricks, and the Snow Beast was just a large robot. Inside running it, we find none other than the professor's assistant, Jean-Pierre Baptiste. Later, they explain it all to the authorities. Baptiste came across the black snow while doing research, realizing there was a huge oil pool. With it being on Inuit land, he took advantage of their legend of the Snow Beast to scare them all away. He and a driller from the Alaskan pipeline then built derricks overnight and disguised them as totem poles, smuggling the oil out from under the ice using the submarine. When the professor started to become suspicious, Baptiste had his Snow Beast carry him away. He gives the classic meddling kids line, and everyone's ready to go. And I love how they have their little initials on their bags here. They realize Scoob is missing. Turns out he's fishing for his new lady friend, but something seems to catch him instead. He even pulls out the claws, while the lady starts to become less impressed with her daring suitor. He finally pulls it out to reveal a big walrus trying to get a Scooby snack for himself. Scoob still gets a kiss that melts him right through the ice anyway though. And hey, he caught a fish. Good enough.
Scooby-Dooby-Doo!
And that's a scary night with a Snow Beast Fright. Ignoring the slurring elephant in the room, this is a solid classic episode, and it's no wonder it sticks with people. I loved watching this on Winter Wonder Dog growing up, and it still holds up really well. Again, ignoring the elephant. All jokes aside, the representation of Inuit people in this episode could really be a lot worse. There's some stuff in classic Scooby that did not age well, but aside from the particular word, there's nothing especially harmful in this episode. Much like The Thing, fittingly, the location leaving the gang alone in the cold adds a solid level of anxiety to their meddling. Everyone gone and homes destroyed leaves an unsettling feeling for anyone to come upon. Even starting the episode stuck on the plane, and seeing the totem poles up close from there, makes things claustrophobic from the jump. The Snow Beast equally adds to the memorable feeling of the episode, because we leave behind your average spooky guy for something completely different and out there. If we're dealing with a cryptid, might as well go big and have a snow dinosaur. Again, those same stock sounds later used in The Thing really make this beast incredibly uncomfortable to watch as it screams around. A white winter dino alone might not be one of the scariest and most remembered villains if that were all there was to it, but the growls and groans as it screams really sell that you do not want to be around. I would have fled the village if I heard this outside my home. The gang at least have reason to be at the scene here, with the professor calling them in as soon as he believed there to be something fishy. Though I do wonder how they even know the professor, and why it was his first thought to call them and not, I don't know, the authorities or someone. We don't address it, as even after they rescue him, they never actually talk about his inviting them, with it being assumed it was for this, and they don't even spend any time with him after. The literal moment this is wrapped up, up, they leave without even a goodbye. And we have at least a decent red herring with the chief. You could always suspect it's him, and that maybe his disappearance is to throw them off. He even told them to leave after all, but the assistant is still fairly obvious. It's almost always someone we met, and he doesn't even get taken, which frees him up entirely to ride off and be the beast. The beautiful lady dog is a cute little side addition to the episode. Love how we know she's a lady dog because she has the big eyelashes. Though, her being a working dog who cannot speak, we have an almost Goofy and Pluto situation with the doggy hierarchy logic that starts to make their potential relationship a little weird to think about. I'm joking, by the way. This is for sure one of the memorable Scooby-Doo show episodes that I never skip, and is quite enjoyable to turn on during a nice and cold wintry day, making a perfect addition to that particular winter-adjacent DVD. I've never skipped it and always enjoy this, and others typically paired up with it. Up next, we finally are hitting the big one from that group though, after all this time. Hopefully you'll come back to see it. I think that's all we really have to say about this one, however. If you want to support the channel, the Patreon is now live. There's an exclusive Zombie Island video for supporters, all that stuff. Patreon is mainly just if you want to support the channel, but you at least get a special bonus right now and new videos earlier. I'll see you soon, probably. Bye!